Hello everybody, it's Sarah, and today I have another review for you, and that review is Honeycomb by Joanne M. I read this in June. I absolutely loved it. I think this is gonna be a deal of Orphea by Joanne M. which I reviewed last year, where I was just gushing so much because what even is the point of a coherent review if you love a book that much? So for those of you who don't know what Honeycomb is, Honeycomb basically is a series of 100 short stories set kind of in the same universe as the Loki duology, as well as, what's the other one? Orphea. Like, Orphea and Loki are set in the same universe. This also is set in the same universe. We recognize kind of a little bit some of the characters once again, or maybe less the characters, more the archetypes from Orphea. And yeah, that's basically what this is. It's a series of 100 short stories that in the end, however, do come together to build one coherent narrative. And a lot of the short stories deal with this character called the Lace Wing King, who basically is the king of the Fae. In this book it's called the Silken Folk, but he's basically the king of the Fae. So yeah, my thoughts on this series. First of all, you all know that Joanne M. is an author I absolutely love. I love her writing, and in this book it's absolutely no different. I don't really know how to describe Joanne M. writing, because I would describe it as an incredibly beautiful writing without necessarily being purple prose. And then at the same time, her writing is very modern in certain ways, but she also manages to just capture the essence of telling fairy tales and of storytelling. And it's something that after reading this book, it's something that I now always say. Joanne M. for me, even more than just being an author of books, she is a storyteller. And she weaves the stories incredibly beautifully, and it's so hard to put into words, but you gotta pick up one of her books to understand what I mean with her writing is modern yet classic. It is beautiful and simple, yet also very picturesque and complicated, and not necessarily flowery or purple prose, but you know, just it's an artwork. Her writing is an artwork. So as for the short stories within this book, you basically have three types of short stories. You have the short stories that directly connect to the Silken Folk and the Lace Wing King and his story. You have the short stories that seemingly don't have anything to do with that story, but then once you're at the end, it's just a beautiful bow because it all makes sense. It makes sense why each of the stories was at the point in this short story collection where it was. And then very randomly in between you also have fables with like animals, mostly farm animals, and it's just like, what is going on here? But they are so fun and they are so good. And the stories, the way the short story collection was built, it just makes so much sense overall. And I love that you get this feeling of reading very quickly because you have these very short stories. I think the longest maybe was 10 pages, but most of them are like between 5 and 6 pages maximum, even less actually, because there's like 400 pages in this book and 100 short stories, so the average length of one of the stories is 4 pages. And so you have these very short stories, and because of that you read very quickly because you can read one after the other. And at the same time there's progress in the story. I don't know how to explain it, because in a lot of anthologies or short story collections by one author, of course you have a connection between the short stories. However, something that happens within this book is that there's a continuous narrative in a way that builds tension, and where I feel even within the short stories, and even within between having short stories that have nothing to do with the main story, you kind of have this crescendo climax at the very end, and it's just so well done and such an interesting and unique concept that I absolutely loved. Then also the characters within the story are very much, they feel like archetypes. They feel like archetypical fairy tale characters, but yet at the same time also not. And I don't know how to talk about this book because it's just so good, and it's so hard to explain what this book is and what this book does, and it's just, everyone should just go and read it. Also, then you have, where you kind of find a pretty one, there is illustrations in the book that are done by Charles Vess, both in color, and then there's also black and white illustrations. And those illustrations as well, they add so much to the story, and it's just, it's so beautiful. I don't know what else to say except it's so beautiful. Like, look at these illustrations. I literally cannot tell you how amazing this book is. But then also in between, it gets pretty gruesome, so be aware of that. But then again, it's just a normal fairy tale thing, so I guess it just fits. But yeah, that was my incoherent rambling about how amazing this book is, and oh my god, please everyone go and read it. If you're interested in reading this, tell me in the comments down below. If you have read it, tell me in the comments down below what your thoughts on it were. If you enjoyed this video, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All the links to my social media are in the description box down below, so go and check those out. All the links to my book club of Queens, Witches and Valkyries, where I read one adult high fantasy book written by a woman per month, will also be left linked down below, so go and check those out as well. And I hope I'll see you very soon. Bye!